In Iran, they are calling for an escalation in the fighting and for the American blockade to be broken. A storm in the United States. Iran is threatening Melania Trump's life. A video published in Iran features extraordinary incitement to harm the First Lady of the United States of America. And, I'm not joking, the Revolutionary Guards are issuing an unusual threat and calling on unknown individuals to harm the wife of the United States President Donald Trump. So, are we on the way to renewing the Memorandum of Understanding or to resuming the war? Today, the framework being advanced for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz was revealed. The negotiations and the sudden calm have brought down the oil prices, which plunged by more than 8%, reaching their lowest level in more than a week. But while the world is watching Hormuz, Iran is erecting a gallows in Protestors Square in Tehran and beginning a wave of executions of anybody who's against this regime. Why are Iran's Kheibar Shekan missiles so dangerous? And why are they frightening the Middle East and Europe as well? Putin is praising Iran's Mosquito fleet. Is Russia supporting Tehran? And is the war much larger than it appears? And why has Zelensky opened a second front against Iran? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has landed in Washington ahead of his meeting with Trump. And the Prime Minister will meet with the President of the United States at the White House and will then attend the funeral of Senator Lindsey Graham. The Emiratis and Israel are growing closer. The Abraham Accords were tested under fire, and the results surprised the Emiratis. And today, we will also bring you the drama of the Iranian drone that are appearing out of nowhere in Israel's skies. I'm here, Pinto. With me, Matishan is not here now because he's on vacation, but we're boots on the ground, and we bring you the full truth about what's happening in Israel and also the full truth about what's happening in our neighborhood, the Middle East. Today is July 28th, so let's begin. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in Washington and is expected to present President Trump with intelligence indicating that Iran is installing centrifuges at the Mountain of Peacocks compound during the ceasefire with the United States of America. A senior Israeli official said that the information would be presented to demonstrate that the Iranians are not sincere in their intentions during the negotiations with Washington. According to the official, the Israeli delegation will present physical evidence of new developments in Iran's nuclear program. Israel estimates that Iran recently transferred thousands of centrifuges to the secret nuclear site at the Mountain of the Peacocks near Natanz. The Prime Minister is expected to present Trump with information supporting that assessment. In addition, Netanyahu intends to update Trump on a series of developments concerning the ceasefire agreements in Gaza and also in Lebanon, two arenas in which terrorist organizations operate under the Iranian direction. Trump, for his part, has issued an unequivocal statement saying that we will not allow madmen to possess nuclear weapons. Although he suspected and suspended the strikes against Iran to provide another opportunity for negotiations over the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and reaching a potential nuclear agreement. And then Trump warned that if the talks fail, the United States will return with more powerful military action. The current negotiations are focused on an attempt to formulate a new agreement that will lead to the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and the resumption of talks on a comprehensive nuclear agreement. The talks are taking place primarily between Iran and Oman, but Qatar, Pakistan, Egypt, and Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are also actively involved. Trump said that he decided on Friday to stop the airstrikes following 2 weeks of continuous fire against the Iranian targets along the southern coastline and in the Strait of Hormuz region. The decision was made even though his senior advisors and also military officials had already presented him with a new strike plan for that same day. Donald Trump expressed optimism about the prospects of negotiations with Iran as both sides entered a third consecutive day without direct military operations against one another. However, he confirmed that Washington would return to military action if the diplomatic efforts will fail. The President of the United States revealed that the main reason behind his decision to suspend the military pressures against Iran, according to him, is the decision that was made on Friday following a direct request from the mediating countries and leaders in the Middle East who asked him to provide another window of opportunity for diplomatic efforts. Everyone involved in the contacts with Iran asked me, "Do not shoot." And then Trump said, adding that he believes Tehran's leadership is now sincerely interested in reaching an agreement. The president said that the attempt does not involve any strategic risk and emphasized that since the strikes were frozen, oil prices have fallen while markets have risen. Iran, for its part, claimed that it had not resumed direct negotiations with the United States and emphasized that it will make its own decisions regarding the protection of its national interests. Since the weekend, Iran and Oman have been conducting intensive talks aimed at formulating a temporary arrangement that would allow the strategic shipping route in the Gulf to reopen. The reports of the talks alone have already caused global fuel and oil prices to fall. And alongside Iran, are we on the way to renewed protests against the Revolutionary Guards? Hours before two participants in the anti-regime protest were executed, civilians are relatives of people sentenced to death gathered at the Ali Khani Square in Isfahan and confronted security forces. Large forces were deployed in the area and internet disruptions were reported. Shortly afterwards, the authorities announced that the sentences had been carried out and that additional young people had been arrested during the protests against the executions. They will be prosecuted for resisting the regime. And following the wave of posts by the United States President Donald Trump, which included numerous AI-generated images mocking Iran, an extraordinary incitement video targeting Melania Trump was published in Iran. The threatening video was published by Iran's Mehr news agency, which is affiliated with the regime. Although a threat against Trump's son, Barron, also appears on the end of this video, the wife of the American president is at the center of it. The narrator directly encourages supporters of the Islamic regime to harm her, while the videos show images of her in various locations. The message is clear. Iran is trying to turn the Trump family itself into part of its campaign of intimidation. And in Israel, the defense establishment is concerned about the series of drone launches towards Israel in recent days. Early this morning, the Air Force intercepted a drone in the southern Dead Sea region. The interception was carried out over Jordanian airspace, and parts of the drone fell into the Dead Sea. Yesterday, the Air Force intercepted two drones in the same area. In every case, the Iron Dome system intercepted and destroyed the detected drones. 1 week ago, air defensive troops detected a drone that had been launched from the east and was making its way towards the Mount Hermon region. The fact that the drones fly at a low altitude, together with the fact that their operators select concealed flight paths through wadis and river canals, makes it difficult to defend against these attacks. It's very hard to track them. Therefore, an intelligence effort is now on its way to locate the launch areas of the drones that were fired over the past 24 hours. This is an intelligence and technological effort, including an attempt to use satellite systems. The IDF understands that all of the drones that were launched were Iranian-made and that they were armed with warheads. And meanwhile, in Yemen, the Houthi front is escalating, and more attacks are threatening the oil reserves. The Houthis announced that they are committed to Iran, and the Houthi terrorists are attempting to implement Iran's Strait of Hormuz strategy in the Bab el-Mandab Strait by disrupting shipping in the Red Sea. The spokesman of Yemen's armed forces warned that attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea would continue, claiming that They were being carried out in defense of international freedom of navigation. And at the same time, as part of the blockade in exchange for blockade, this equation, the Houthi military spokesman announced attacks on sensitive points along the crude oil supply route from eastern Saudi Arabia. All the details coming up. So, as you can see, we have a lot ahead of us. So let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and Mati Shoshani is not with me today. He's still on vacation, but we are boots on the ground, and we bring you the full truth about what's happening in Israel, and also about the war against the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, which is the head of the crumbling axis of evil in the Middle East. And just before we begin, I want to call on you to continue and spread the truth. Share our videos with as many people as possible. Click on the subscribe button. Yeah, you can see it right here. Got the wrong hand on this button. And most importantly, do not forget to look for me, Yair Pinto, and for Mati Shoshani on our social media accounts to get our perspective through our eyes of what it's like to live in Israel under this war. So, life here in Israel keeps moving. One day we're hiking desert trails. The next we're filming in remote locations, training, or exploring ancient biblical sites. It's the kind of lifestyle that demands mobility and also recovery. And that's why I recommend Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen Protein. It helps support healthy joints, skin, and overall recovery. It's important when you're constantly active and putting your body to work. Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen Protein combines multiple collagen sources into one easy-to-use formula, and it fits perfectly into my daily routine. So whether you're training, traveling, working long hours, or simply trying to support your health, your mobility, and your active lifestyle, Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen is a simple way to support your body and to keep moving forward. So to try it for yourself, you can go to ancientnutrition.com. Again, that's ancientnutrition.com, and then you use the promo code Israel26, and you'll get 26% off of your subscription, off of your order, and you'll help our mission at TBN Israel. So let's get back to the news, because before dawn, an armed drone approached Israel through the Jordanian border region at low altitude. The Israeli Air Force intercepted it before it crossed into the Israeli territory, and no sirens were activated. It was the third such interception in roughly 24 hours after two additional drones were stopped in the same sector the previous day. So who is launching these aircrafts, and why are they appearing along one of Israel's least expected aerial approaches? The answer is still being investigated, and Israel has not publicly identified the launch sites. Jordan, however, said that two drones that it intercepted on Monday had entered from the Iranian territory. Israeli military officials assessed that the aircraft detected near the Dead Sea were Iranian-made, carried explosive warheads, and followed routes intended to reduce radar exposure. Small drones can hide below some long-range sensors by following the wadis, the dry riverbeds, and terrain folds. Their operators can change direction near the border and force several countries to decide within minutes who should intercept. Israeli teams are combining radar records, satellite images, debris analysis, and also electronic signature to reconstruct the routes backward towards their launch areas. The successful interceptions still expose the danger of the current pause. Iran does not need a large missile barrage to test regional defenses. A few low-flying drones can examine detection gaps, measure reaction times, and keep Israel and Jordan at elevated readiness without formally ending diplomacy. Inside Iran, the quiet nights have triggered a different battle. Hardline voices are demanding that the Revolutionary Guards intensify the attacks and break the American naval blockade. They argue that Washington stopped because its defensive inventories and supply lines are under pressure. More pragmatic officials warned that another round would worsen fuel shortages, inflation, currency, instability, and the disruption of basic services. This disagreement affects whether an order is issued to launch another drone, challenge another vessel, or authorize a strike from Yemen or Iraq. The hardliners see every quiet night as time for the United States to reload. The rivals see another opportunity to prevent an economic crisis the regime may struggle to control. American officials increasingly believe that financial pressure may hurt Tehran more deeply than another isolated wave of bombings. Intelligence assessments point to gasoline shortages, concern over bank withdrawals, and difficulties funding fighters and regional armed groups. Washington has expanded sanctions across Iran's oil trade, financial systems, shipping networks, and also the military procurement. Iranian negotiators are seeking access to money and relief from restrictions, not merely an end to the airstrikes. Yet repression continues during negotiations. Before dawn in Isfahan, authorities executed Abdulfazi Safafi Babjani and also Amir Hussein Safri Hussein in connection with the January protests. Crowds gathered near the Alikani Square after metal scaffolding was erected, and security forces dispersed them and restricted the internet access before the sentences were carried out. Iran's judiciary says that the men participated in attacks that killed 4 security personnel, and human rights investigators described closed proceedings, disputed confessions, and inadequate examination of individual responsibility. 2 other defendants were executed on July 19th, leaving 8 additional men under death sentences. Diplomacy abroad is not bringing restraint at home. The propaganda campaign is operating in parallel. A regime-affiliated outlet published a video encouraging an attack on First Lady Melania Trump and threatening the president's 20-year-old son, Barron. The video presented alleged vulnerabilities in her security. Its claims are not verified, but its political purpose is clear: intimidate the president's family, while officials call the negotiations friendly. And before we continue, help us share the truth from Israel. Like this report, share it, and also hit the subscribe button on TBN Israel so that you never miss another update from the ground. Because what you see on YouTube is only part of the story, and you can get a closer, first-hand report, behind-the-scene moments, and also stories of faith, resilience, and hope from the Jewish state by going to tbn.org/journeys/boots. Again, that's tbn.org/journeys/boots. You can also text the word boots to 316316. Again, text the word boots to 316316 to receive direct updates from TBN Israel. Also, you can check us out on our social media accounts, Yair, Pinto, and Mati Shoshani. And let's get back to the news, because the military threat behind this struggle is the Kheibar Shekan ballistic missile. It is solid fuel, road mobile weapon with a reported range of about 1,450 kilometers, or also 900 miles. It can remain ready, move on transponder launch shells, and also fire with less preparation than older liquid fuel systems. This is reducing the time that is available to find and to destroy this weapon. Iranian crews are changing how the missiles are being fired. Recent attacks use different trajectories, speeds, and terminal maneuvers to complicate the interception. Some variants reportedly carry a maneuvering nose section that adjusts the course during the descent. Allied defenses stopped most of the launchers, but official knowledge that say that some penetrated. The weapon is mobile, it's relatively inexpensive, it's accurate enough for military targets, and costly to defeat it with the interceptors, so it's cheaper than destroying it. Its range covers Israel, Gulf capitals, and also American bases. And Europe is watching the next step. Iranian figures are discussing whether to abandon the country's self-imposed 2,000-kilometer limit after the Ukrainian strike in the Caspian Sea. Western Ukraine lies roughly 1,800 kilometers from northwestern Iran, while the Khormuzshar Fault is credited with a range that is exceeding 2,000 kilometers. The Caspian confrontation is no longer a side story. Ukraine says that long-range drones struck vessels involved in the military cargo transfer between Russia and Iran, along with a Russian warship. Iran says that an Iranian commercial vessel was hit, killing one sailor and injuring another. Tehran summoned the Ukrainian representative and threatened retaliation. President Vladimir Zelensky argues that Iran entered the war years ago by supporting and supplying Russia with Shahad drones and production technology. Tehran accuses Kiev of acting for Israel. Vessels moving between Iranian ports and Russia's Caspian network can carry military equipment beyond the normal land inspections. Ukraine is now treating that route as part of Russia's military supply system. Russia is also studying Iran's naval methods. President Vladimir Putin praised Iran's so-called mosquito fleet as an example of how small vessels with modern weapons can influence a large conflict. The force reportedly includes about 20 Kheibar-class midget submarines and thousands of fast missile and assault boats, some concealed inside coastal tunnels. These vessels are not intended to defeat an American carrier group in a traditional battle. Fast boats, mines, anti-ship missiles, drones, and also small submarines create uncertainty in narrow waters. They force warships to defend several directions and make commercial captains question whether a voyage is worth the risk. Putin's praise does not prove that Russia has a direction to help Iran, but it shows that Moscow sees Iran's asymmetric model as useful. The same model is visible in Yemen. Houthi forces are applying Iran's Hormuz strategy to the Bab el-Mandab by threatening Saudi oil infrastructure and maritime traffic. This allows Tehran's network to pressure two energy corridors, while Iranian and American forces avoid direct strikes. Every drone intercepted near Jordan must therefore be examined as part of a wider system. The United Arab Emirates has drawn its own lesson. The Abraham Accords provided practical security during this war. Israel deployed Iron Dome systems and personnel to help and protect the Emiratis, our Arab neighbors. Reports also described laser defense support, although the exact configuration has not been publicly confirmed. The UAE faced nearly 3,000 Iranian missiles and drones and relied on layered American, Israeli, South Korean, Ukrainian, British, and also French capabilities. Abu Dhabi is expanding the defense cooperation with Israel and the United States, also while reopening trade and flights with Iran. It's hardening pipelines, data centers, food storage, and ports, while accelerating projects at Fujairah that bypass Hormuz. This is not trust. It is preparation to deter Iran, trade with it, and survive another confrontation. In Washington, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is bringing these fronts into one strategic discussion. The intelligence concerning centrifuges at Pickaxe Mountain remains central, but the meeting also covers Iran's missile reconstruction, the Abraham Accords, Saudi civilian nuclear ambitions, the proposed F-35 sale to Turkey, and also Lebanon. Israeli and Lebanese teams will resume talks in Rome from August 4th through August 6th on pilot zones, border disputes, and Hezbollah's disarmament. Hormuz remains the economic test. Fewer than 10 commodity vessels crossed daily during the weekend, even after strikes stopped. War risk insurance has risen between 7.5 and 10% of the ship's hull value, compared with roughly 1 to 3% during the calmer periods. Oil prices and the diplomatic hopes that are rising are lowering the costs for now. But if the fighting resumes, the cost will rise up again. The pause has created two races. Diplomats are trying to build an agreement before Iran's military networks generate another attack, while the Revolutionary Guards are trying to prove that pressure has not weakened them. Which side will move first when another unidentified drone appears, a ship changes course, or a missile crew receives its launch order. Let me know what you think about this. And keep spreading the truth. Hit the subscribe button of TBN Israel YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you are subscribed, because many of you are watching, but not subscribers. So you watch every day, but hit the subscribe button. Basically, it just helps us a lot. And help us by praying for the situation. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for wisdom to our leaders. Pray for the children of this land. And we'll see you again tomorrow for another update.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.